Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, and thank you all so much for joining me live tonight. We've got a great show planned. We've got some really incredible information to talk about with what's happening with Trump and RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. We're going to be diving deep into the mosquitoes and, yes, mosquito lockdowns. There's literally a large chunk of Massachusetts that is encouraging curfews at 6 p.m. and then 5 p.m. for the residents of their town because of one guy contracted a deadly disease via mosquito. And there's a lot more to unpack there and a lot more of other stuff as well. Also, just for the regular watchers and new watchers, welcome to you. But what I'm going to be doing now is a renewed commitment of content. As we're heading into the election cycle, there's so much stuff that's happening. And so what I'll be doing, and most weeks we should be able to adhere to this schedule, is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, doing a show just like this, which is a live show with me and you one-on-one, talking about the key news topics. And a lot of these shows will be not just one singular topic, which is in a deep dive format, but looking over maybe 5 or 6 of the key stories of the day, breaking them down, analyzing, and also talking about what's not being covered by the mainstream media and what the main narrative is missing. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll be publishing interviews. So I'll still be doing my interview formats with guests like Dr. David Martin, Martin Armstrong. I'm actually interviewing Mickey Willis shortly as well. So I'll still be publishing those interviews as well, because I know that you folks love the interviews and I love them as well. But at the same time, I really enjoy the opportunity to go over the news with you and sit here like this and just dive into stories and break down narratives and show you the research that I'm coming to, right? I don't know everything. I'm very far away from knowing everything, but I've got my eye on a lot of different things and I'm following certain narratives, and I love the opportunity to just share the research that I'm doing and the understandings that I'm coming to, because you'd probably agree with me when I say that there is so much crazy stuff going on, and every story has 10 different angles, 10 different opinions on it. And so we'll be going on a journey together to try to understand what's happening in this crazy world. All right, so folks, before we jump into today's show, first off, if you haven't signed up yet for our weekly silver giveaways, please do, right? So every week we're giving away 5 ounces of pure silver. They're little 1 ounce Buffalo round coins. And all you have to do is go to maninamerica.com/win. Now, the great thing is when you do that, you're entered in, and we'll keep drawing every Friday. So you'll potentially win multiple times in a row, and you keep being put in. But the other thing is that with this threat of censorship, right, as we were talking about with the arrest of the CEO of Telegram, which is one of the main places I'm communicating with you, there's a lot of worry that this censorship is going to be spreading across other platforms. And so one of the best ways to stay in touch and make sure that even if I get censored on a certain platform, you can still hear from me, I can still give you updates, is to join my email mailing list. And so you can do that by going and entering into the silver giveaway. It's a great way to sign up and win some silver. So again, that's maninamerica.com/win. The other thing is I want to talk to you shortly about silver again, right? So if you've been following me, you know that I'm a big prepper, right? I have a huge belief in the ability to have food stored away, have the things I need to protect that food, garden, do everything possible to prepare, because if you look at what's potentially coming and what I believe, it's some form of chaos, right? And I'll be talking about a recent report put out by the World Economic Forum where they're telling us openly that there will be chaos. Later this week, I'll be interviewing Martin Armstrong, and who has recently come out and said, look, it doesn't matter who wins in the election, there's going to be chaos. This is what the people want, not us the people, but the small group of evil people. They want absolute chaos. And so being prepared for that is really, really important. And so one of the most important things to prepare is make sure that you're financially prepared, because we know that they want to bring in some sort of central bank digital currency. We know that with the de-dollarization campaign that's aggressively being put forth by the BRICS nations, not to mention the excessive money printing here in the West, that the dollar is at the end of its lifespan, right? It's a fiat currency. Fiat currencies have life cycles, and the dollar is unfortunately entering into that stage of where we could see hyperinflation. Now, if you have all your money sitting in savings or a 401k or the stock market, whatever it is, just my own word of caution to you, those are all places where you're storing your assets that are vulnerable. If there's a cyber attack and you can no longer access your bank accounts, right? Even during the recent stock market crash in Japan that cascaded over into the Americas, over the weekend, a lot of people couldn't even access their trading accounts. They couldn't log on to their TD trade or their whatever app or program they're using to manage their stock market trades. So it's a real worry, which is why I recommend at least having some of your money sitting in physical gold and silver. Right, this right here, they can't turn this off with a button. Right, even if they go door to door, they're not going to go dig up through your backyard to try to find where you've hidden your precious metals. So if you haven't moved some of your money over, I highly recommend it. And there's no company I recommend more than Noble Gold. So Noble Gold, I'm a good friend of the CEO, great company. They specialize specifically in IRA transfers and 401k transfers, making sure you can save all those fees that the government wants to charge you, especially if your money is tied up and you get penalized for pulling it out with an IRA, for instance. So they can walk you through that whole process. So to get a free gold investment kit, go to goldwithseth.com or call 626-654-1906. Again, 626-654-1906. All right, folks, so jumping into today's show, there's a lot to be going over, but first I'm going to start with a short video. So you probably remember the botched pull out of Afghanistan, right? We lost a lot of people. There were a lot of the citizens that were there that were trying to get out that weren't able to get out, and unfortunately there was the death. So there's the attack. There was a bombing near I think it was at the Kabul airport, and so there's a wreath ceremony. So I'll pull up a video for you. I'll continue talking as I'm playing it. So this is the wreath ceremony that President Trump was at, and it's interesting because normally this is something that a president would do. And I think that Biden might be at the beach today, if I recall correctly, based upon his schedule. But seeing President Trump out there doing this and laying this wreath is pretty significant. But the reason why I'm playing this is because this kind of segues into Tulsi Gabbard. So RFK, as you know, RFK Jr. recently came out and endorsed President Trump and decided to really join forces with him. Now, one thing that what RFK Jr. had said, and I think I've got it here, is he said recently that this is only the beginning. Wait till you see the next additions to President Trump's unity government. And so we're going to be talking the first segment of the show about this unity government and how what's happening is that, and as they've predicted, is that big ticket Democrats are coming forward and showing their support for President Trump. And so one of those people is Tulsi Gabbard, who, I mean, if you've been following the news and following her, you know that she's been really speaking out about a lot of things, and you could see where she was headed in her direction, that she was very pro-America, very pro-Constitution. She was one of the very few, high-level politicians that was actually talking about the biolabs in Ukraine and some of the things that, most of the folks, especially the rhinos or the left, they're not talking about those things. They're going to say, hey, send more, send billions more over to Ukraine. So she came out, and I've got about a 5.5 minute speech to play for you, because she was also at that wreath laying ceremony at the Arlington Cemetery. So I'm going to play this for you because this is an important one to listen to, because she really highlights what that moment was like and why she's throwing her support behind President Trump, which, again, this is it's a significant addition of another high power person coming over to Trump's side. So I'll play this for you, and then we'll continue from there.
It is a privilege to be here with all of you, my brothers and sisters in uniform, especially on this day of all days. I had the privilege of joining President Trump this morning at Arlington Cemetery, where he joined two Gold Star families and loved ones of Staff Sergeant Hoover and Sergeant G, both of whom were two of the 13 killed in the Abbey Gate attack 3 years ago today in Kabul. And I can tell you, as we were there, as he laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier, joining these Marines' loved ones, I felt the sorrow that he shared with them in their loss. I felt and saw his sincere appreciation for these servicemen and women who paid the ultimate price, and their loved ones who continue to grieve to this day. This is personal for me, as I know it is for so many of you. here. This is real. It's not just words. I first deployed to Iraq in 2005 with the Hawaii Army National Guard as a member of Charlie Med. As those of you who were deployed during that time know, it was the height of the war, and sadly, we took many casualties. And every day we were confronted with that high human cost of war and that sadness as we boarded the plane when we left, that we were leaving some of our brothers and sisters behind, only to lose others when we got home to suicide. So I mean what I say when I share with you that I know that President Trump understands the grave responsibility that a president and commander-in-chief bears for every single one of our lives. Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort. The truth is, as we head towards our decision as a country in November, the same cannot be said about Kamala Harris. In fact, the opposite is true, and we're living through this reality today as this administration has us facing multiple wars on multiple fronts and regions around the world, and closer to the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House, where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief. Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace. And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat. Kamala Harris has done this over the last 3.5 years. She won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target, added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as president. We as Americans must stand together to reject this anti-freedom culture of political retaliation and abuse of power. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future. I am proud to stand here before you today, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. If you love our country, as I do, if you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House to do the tough work of saving our country and serving the people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
So great speech by her. But actually, I want to address a comment that I saw pop up from Ben in the Rumble chat. And he was asking whether Tulsi Gabbard's controlled opposition. Now, I interviewed Trevor Loudon. It was probably a good 1.5 years ago, perhaps. And if you're not familiar with Trevor Loudon, he's one of the world's experts on communism, especially the infiltration of communism in our own country. And he took a pretty hard stance against Tulsi and looked at her background and her communist ties, and he really looked at her as being a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, I want to make a point, though, that I've come to understand is that there's a lot of folks that were trying to figure out, okay, is this person controlled opposition? Is that person controlled opposition? And there's a lot of digging that happens, right? There's this online culture of digging and researching, which is good. But what I see sometimes is that people will go back and they'll find something from like 8 years ago from somebody and say, oh, look, this person's controlled opposition because I found out they voted Democrat 8 years ago, or they did this. And I really have the belief that the battle that we're witnessing right now is not of political parties. It's not even of the elites and we the people. It's a spiritual battle. It's a battle of good and evil. And in the battle of good and evil, I really believe that people are positioning themselves. They're showing God what's inside of them. And that's why I think that there's some people who say, why would God allow such evil to exist on earth? And I believe that this evil is allowed to exist because it allows us to show how we respond to it. Do we bow down to the evil? Do we join the evil? Do we try to ignore the evil and run away from it? Or do we fight the evil? Do we put our head down and run towards the evil with sword in hand and slay the demons? And I think all of the actions that we have right now are showing that the God in the heavens. They're just showing what's really in our soul. And so that's how much I look at so much of what's happening today. And so even if somebody played a negative role before, right, which we're seeing like literally right in front of us, people that are, going from Democrat to now supporting Trump. And like maybe, Bernie Sanders is the next person to come out and endorse Trump. I mean, honestly, you just don't know. But who knows? We'll see. He was the speaker of the DNC. But the point being is that I think that right now there's an opportunity, there's a window, whatever timeline that we have hasn't ended yet. So there's a window for people to show their true character. And so we might see there's people that we rejected and thought were just evil and rotten and not good, that they actually join the good side of things. They take a stand and they say, you know what? I see things clearly now, right? Because everyone has their own process of waking up. You weren't born awake to the evils of the world, and neither was I. It took, well into my adult life to actually understand what's really happening. And I still only understand a fraction of it. So I think that there really is a process of people waking up. And so let's just use Tulsi as an example. Maybe she was a raging communist 10 years ago. I don't know, maybe, right? But does that mean that she's controlled opposition if she's now, coming behind, President Trump and playing a positive role? Not necessarily, because what if she had a change of heart? What if she had a change in faith? What if she was an atheist and then she found God? You don't know. So I think it's just really important, though, that of course we have to keep asking these questions. We have to keep digging. But at the same time, I think that we also have to have our arms open because people are at their own paces. They're going through their own process of waking up and making the decision that could shape their soul's destiny for all eternity. So I guess that's my answer. So hopefully that's a good answer. Just my answer though. Like that's how I look at what's happening. But what's interesting, getting back into the news, is that Scott, you gotta love this. So this is a tweet that RFK Jr. put out. It says, Wonder Woman has joined the Justice League. So I grew up in the generation of Marvel Comics and all that kind of stuff. So, it's always fun to see these kind of references, but it's kind of cool. I mean, it really does. It does feel like there's these superheroes assembling, right? People coming across party lines, people coming out of nowhere, and they're all just assembling. I mean, look, you've got, Elon Musk, who's arguably, you could say he's like a Tony Stark Iron Man character, the wealthy, tech billionaire that's now thrown his support behind Trump, which is just kind of fascinating. You've got Gabbard, who actually kind of looks like Wonder Woman. I mean, it's if you've seen the movies. So anyway, it's a pretty cool thing that's happening here. But what was honestly the next thing we're talking about as it relates to RFK Jr. is probably the most exciting thing that I've seen on any political platform. Right, so I'm going to pull this up for you. So if you're following my show, or, I talk a lot about chemtrails, right? I've interviewed Dane Wigington. I've interviewed, other whistleblowers and people talking about chemtrails. I'm disgusted by chemtrails. I hate them. I hate, I live out in the country. I live in a rural area. We're on 7 acres, surrounded by forest, and we chose that for a reason. But there's nothing worse than walking outside with my wife, and I've got a 6-month-old baby and a 3-year-old, with my family, that I do everything to keep healthy, right? Our food, everything. And we walk outside and you look up in the sky, and they're dumping chemicals on us. It boils my blood like nothing. And my wife, if it boils my blood, it's like a volcanic reaction in her blood to see these chemtrails. So what's amazing, though, I'll pull this up, is that RFK Jr. just announced that the Trump Unity Admission, this is how Vigilant Fox is phrasing it, would stop chemtrails. So this is when have you thought about, okay, think about this. When have you seen a prominent politician acknowledge chemtrails, let alone come out and saying we're going to end them? So what happened is that there's a post on X, which I'll show you, I'll play for you, about chemtrails, and Kennedy came out and said, we're going to stop this crime. So this is the post. It was from Concerned Citizen over on Twitter, and it's a whistleblower speaking. I'll play the video for you. It's about a minute long. And so the whistleblower says, I call them tank terminators. We are paid more than any other pilot, he says. So I'll play the whistleblower, but if you look at this right below, the top comment on this is RFK Jr. saying, we are going to stop this crime, right? So a video whistleblower about chemtrails, especially in America, RFK Jr. coming out and saying, we are going to stop this crime. I mean, to me, this is the best political platform you could possibly run on, is ending chemtrails. And of course, look, I want to see the border closed. I want to see our, the Constitution upheld, everything. But the excitement over someone actually stopping chemtrails, I think that part of it is because I feel like I try, as I mentioned, so hard to protect my family from chemicals and toxins. But when you walk out amongst beautiful nature, and we're surrounded by huge trees and forests, and every day we see deer and animals. I mean, it's a beautiful area. But when I walk out and you see these streaks across the sky, and you can taste it, you can taste the metal and all the stuff in the air, and then my wife starts she's coughing that night. My baby, my little baby has a runny nose after that. It's sickening. It's so frustrating. So anyway, I'm going to play this for you. This video right here. It's about, like I said, it's about a minute long, but this is the video that RFK Jr. responded to. So kudos to him. Okay, let's check this video out, though.
Would not intentionally spray my children or family with toxic aerosols, but as you must know, 80% or better do not have any family or children. Indigo pilots are chosen from the top ranks within the Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard. Most of the pilots are, quote, hardened to humanity, unquote, and could care less about killing off unwanted or leeching aspects of America and the world. I swear to you, the majority of the pilots are like machines. I call them tanker terminators. We are paid more than any other pilot for our service, other than Air Force One pilots, who make as much or more and are kept in a dark secret world for their own protection.
Turn up the 9230.
Yep, 1692, Albuquerque, safe speed.
79.
Yep, 6200, mark 33.
Albuquerque, south to 204, Charlie Whiskey 390.
Yeah, there's the chemtrails I can't stand, and so anyway, I just think that's just absolutely amazing. I would love to see that. And I did notice, because my wife and I, we watch the skies daily, and I remember back in 2020, 2021, that time, 2019, that when Biden took office, we noticed a distinct change, and there was a lot more chemtrail. At least in the region, we were in Central Ohio at that time, and it was a noticeable difference in seeing the amount of chemtrail after Biden got in, which would make sense, right? That this is a government working with probably the United Nations and other different agencies to do this. So anyway, that makes me really happy. I'm excited. I would love to see that discussed more. I'm sure that now that this has happened and he commented on that tweet about it, I'm sure the mainstream media is going to come out and attack him and saying, RFK Jr. is a conspiracy theorist. He's talking about chemtrails, but like the government openly admits this. I mean, you can literally go to NOAA.gov, right? The weather monitoring government agency, and they have a whole section for weather modification where you can see all the different states reporting the weather modification they've done in their region, whether it's cloud seeding for rain or affecting snowfall, whatever. You can see that they're modifying the weather. It's not a secret anymore. So now we're going to be talking about the CEO of Telegram. So I got an article here just to help frame the discussion for us. So Telegram's founder arrest part of broad investigation, French prosecutors say. So it says here, a case was opened last month to investigate child pornography, drug sales, fraud, and other criminal activities on the platform. The app's founder, Pavel Durov, was detained over the weekend near Paris. So, okay, there's a lot I have to say about this, but fundamentally, I look at this as an attack on free speech, right? Telegram, back when post-election 2020, when there was massive waves of censorship, a lot of folks, including myself, set up Telegram accounts, and a lot of people migrated over to using Telegram because you could talk about the elections, you could talk about COVID, any of that kind of stuff, and Telegram was a great place. So, but here I'll get into the charge sheet because this is what they're saying, that supposedly that this is what they're accusing him of. And now, again, to me, this looks like just an attack on free speech, but let's take a look at this. So this is the actual report coming out. This is coming out today from the prosecutor of the Republic in France. They're saying Pavel Durov, founder and CEO of instant messaging platform Telegram, was arrested at Le Bourget airport in the outskirts of Paris on Saturday the 24th, taken into custody. Blah, blah, blah. It says the judicial investigation was opened against person unnamed on charges of complicity, webmastering an online platform in order to enable an illegal transaction in an organized group, refusal to communicate at the request of competent authorities, information or documents necessary for carrying out operating inspections, complicity, possessing pornographic images of minors, complicity, distributing, offering, or making available pornographic images of minors in an organized group, complicity, acquiring, transporting, possessing, offering, or selling narcotic substances. It just goes on. So, but the question that I have here with this is that, like, we know, and this isn't some conspiracy, we know that, like, Meta, for instance, like, there have been congressional hearings about the child trafficking and child pornography happening on Facebook, Instagram. I mean, these platforms are known for this. So imagine Zuckerberg being arrested because someone is sharing child pornography on Facebook. I mean, it's the same thing. It's almost, okay, Google as an example. I mean, how many Google servers are actually hosting this kind of stuff as well? So the fact that they're choosing to pin it on him, it draws so many suspicions, but you have to ask yourself, okay, what's the threat? Obviously, there's a threat because Telegram is quite decentralized, and it's very private, and there's been groups. But actually, I found a Twitter thread that I think actually helps explain this. Now, keep in mind, this person here has a pretty strong anti-Israel slant in his language here, and you can see it coming through. My perspective is I'm seeing bad things on both sides, right? I think that, if you probably notice, I haven't gotten into the whole Israel and Palestine issue that much because honestly, the more I've dug into it, the more I see that there's honestly atrocities on both sides. There's corruption on both sides. I think that the October 7th was allowed to happen. I think there's a stand down issue that was given that allowed the Hamas to come in. Israel has admitted to, Netanyahu admitted to funding the Hamas. I mean, it's such a tricky thing. So I'm not going to be getting into that right now. My only perspective is that there's evil happening on both sides. And unfortunately, the evil has really been driven by the leaders at top. And the people that are suffering are we the people, the innocent people on the ground. So anyway, this guy is saying in this thread, it's a helpful thread. He's saying, why is it a big headache for the certain group, the USA and France? He goes, why they decided to literally kidnap the owner, Pavel Durov, at the Paris airport. So here's a thread. Now, one thing to note is actually, Pavel, he's worth like $15 billion. I didn't know how wealthy this guy was. And I was researching it. He's 39 years old, but he's worth $15 billion, which is pretty impressive. I mean, if I'm worth $15 million by the time I'm 39, which is next year, I'll be really excited, but I don't see that happening. Anyway, so Pavel Durov, he says the founder and CEO of Telegram was arrested today in France. There are different charges against him. It says Telegram is the main source of information about the Israeli genocide and the massacre in Gaza. Thousands of videos of Israelis massacring children have been posted on Telegram channels by journalists living in Gaza. It says Israel is trying to stop the flow of information. That's why it's killed over 100 journalists in Gaza alone. Now, I also have seen that there's also on the flip side, there's a lot of videos on Telegram of the Hamas and of the Palestinians doing terrible things to the Israelis as well. So again, it's going both sides. Now this guy chose to take a particular angle on it, but the reality is that I'm seeing both sides, and unfortunately I've come across a lot of this information in my research on Telegram, and Telegram is a place that there's a lot of really just difficult stuff that is on there. I mean, dead children, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's gruesome, but it's reality. So this guy is saying that this is one of the reasons why Telegram was a threat. He has a little thread here. Another one, he says the most accurate information about the situation on the ground in Ukraine comes out on Telegram, and NATO can't control it. The biggest Wagner channels are on Telegram. In general, the best way to assess if a disinformation campaign is taking place is to check if multiple channels that are pro-Wagner or so have relayed it. So it says many people use Telegram as their source of information because the information comes directly from the field. Many dead NATO soldiers appear on Telegram, and the CIA and NATO command can no longer hide their direct involvement in the war broke out in Russia, which is true. I mean, I've seen a lot of this information on Telegram. But you see it's both sides. You see, there's videos of Russian soldiers being assassinated and killed, and you see people, videos of the Ukrainian soldiers being killed. So you see both sides of it on there. But the reality is that it's not controlled. Like as he mentions that the CIA and NATO command can't hide their involvement. So there's a lot of information that's being exposed on Telegram. Telegram also has, I think, close to 1 billion users. I mean, I think it has 950 million users. So it's not some small, obscure app. I think especially in other nations, it's a huge presence, has a massive audience. So close to 1 billion people using it. So he continues, he says, Telegram did a lot of damage to the French army in Africa. So it says the Africans organized all their protests, resistance, and everything else against the French occupation forces through Telegram. Russian mercenaries obviously used different platforms, but Telegram played for them an important role in accelerating the deterioration of France's military posture, especially in Africa. He says, I think it's important to take into consideration when wondering why the French would get involved. It's a good point. Now, it says the founder of Telegram has been detained by French intelligence services at this airport in Paris while exiting a private jet. He's expected to be presented to a judge later this evening, facing multiple charges, according to TF1. Potential charges, we talked about the potential charges. He says the main concern of EU authorities regarding Telegram is its encrypted messaging. Okay, so they can't get that. It says, so what is Durov accused of, and what was the warrant for his arrest actually issued for in France? It says, we discussed this topic with a lawyer ahead of the law enforcement center in Moscow and the region. Alexander Kaminsky says, quote, Durov is accused of aiding in drug trafficking, pedophilia, and terrorism. According to the official version, the businessman did not make any efforts to limit the use of Telegram messengers by international criminal groups. So there's other charges against him. But what's interesting is that that Russia is actually now coming out and supporting him, which is again interesting because it gets into Russia further down here, right? It says there's a famous photo of him. I think it shows a photo later here. Yeah, basically. Flipping off, it says, giving Putin his middle finger. It says in 2011, Durov said the Russian government had requested him to cancel the accounts of anti-government figures on a social media platform. It says Durov not only did not follow, but also publicly released this photo of raising the middle finger to Putin in the media, which received cheers from the West. So there's a lot more behind the story here. Here he says, in an interview with Tucker Carlson, Durov said the last time he was in the United States, he brought an engineer from Telegram with him who the Secret Services tried to hire behind his back. So what's also interesting is that Durov helped the coup in 2014 in Ukraine, which we know that was a CIA-backed coup. So anyway, there's there's just a lot to this story with his arrest. And again, as I mentioned, Russia, I think, is now trying to support him, but it's a tricky situation. But overall, it's concerning to me because we've also seen the EU has taken a very hard stance against Elon and Twitter, X. So they're trying to demand censorship. We've got the UK now arresting their citizens for their speech online, hate speech online. Even talk about extraditing citizens to bring them back. So there's a serious crackdown. I mean, it's almost a communist crackdown happening with free speech in the European Union, and his arrest is just another indicator of that. So again, for folks that are watching this show, I encourage you to make sure that you're following me across multiple channels. If you're only following me on Telegram, open a Twitter account. Go follow me on Twitter. If you're following me on Twitter and Telegram, make sure you're watching me on Rumble. And fundamentally, make sure you're also on my email list. So again, the easy way to sign up is go to maninamerica.com/win, and you can enter to win the silver, but it also signs you up to the email list. So I highly recommend that because honestly, just you have no idea. We're entering into the election. This time in 2020, we saw a massive purge of online accounts and huge censorship right around the laptop coming out. So anyway, just wanted to tell you that. So, all right, so let's go ahead and dive into what I think is a really, again, another important story, which is the Mosquito lockdown. So this is it's kind of crazy, but the narrative I put together here is interesting to say the least. So basically, so Massachusetts towns are on alert over a potentially deadly mosquito-borne virus. So basically, there's this virus they call it triple E, right, which means Eastern equine encephalitis. It says it's a rare but potentially deadly virus, the state officials warn. So there's currently no vaccines or medicines available to treat triple E, which CDC says that 30% of people die from it. Now, one guy, if I understand correctly, one guy contracted this in Massachusetts. And so now what they're saying is that they are now saying that they're going to be implementing this kind of voluntary curfew, right? Actually, I think I have a video for you. Let me actually pull a video up because I want to show you this actually. Let's see, one second. Let me pop into my notes real quick here. So let's see, where is it? So mosquitoes. So I thought I had it here. Anyway, I was going to show you a video of it. But basically, what they're doing in these four regions in Massachusetts is they're now coming out and they're saying that there's going to be a curfew, right? So the curfew is going to be at 6 p.m. that you shouldn't be outside past 6 p.m. until the end of September, and then once you come into October, they're saying you can't be outside past 5 p.m. So what you can see, though, is that the fear-mongering, the ramp-up is already happening. We've also there's a couple schools, I think, in Tennessee, and I forget which other state, they're shutting down because of COVID, right? So they're seeing COVID cases on the rise again. But again, there's this scare of this triple E virus, so that they're literally coming out, and they're starting all over again. They're coming out and saying, okay, we don't want you outside past 6 p.m. because there's a curfew. So no barbecues, no sporting games, no events, because that's when the mosquitoes are biting more people. And honestly, it's like, it feels like it's an IQ test to see who's going to listen to this stuff. I mean, who's going to stop going outside after 6 p.m. and sit scared in your house because you're worried the mosquitoes are going to get you. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. It really is absolutely absurd. But when you take a step back and you look at, okay, what's going on with the whole mosquito agenda, it gets even more crazy. So let me pull up the next part here I wanted to share with you. So Mr. Fauci also, this is only a couple of days ago, so Fauci is recovering from the West Nile virus. So, okay, everyone knows West Nile virus is a mosquito. The question I have for you is, when was the last time that you met someone, a friend or family member, that had West Nile? Personally, I don't know anybody who's had West Nile. It doesn't seem like that common, especially here in America. So the fact that Fauci, he's the center of the medical agenda in the West, is now recovering from West Nile virus, a mosquito-borne virus, it feels like it's just such a perfect setup to get the people that are watching CNN that are worried about what the next scare is to say, oh, gosh, well, Fauci, he had the West Nile virus, and now there's this triple E thing that's going in Massachusetts. And, what's the next thing? Are they going to demand that we wear like full body mosquito nets if we want to go into public? Is that the new thing? It's like, well, if you want to go to public, you have to wear a full body mosquito net. Right. So you can see, though, that the propaganda engine is churning up. OK, look at this series of events. Now, what's crazy is that, and you probably are aware of this. So there's a company, I forget the name, I'll cover it in the next article here, that Bill Gates is involved with, heavily invested in, that has developed these GMO mosquitoes, these genetically modified mosquitoes that are supposedly going to, it's to combat West Nile and other mosquito-carried illnesses. And supposedly what happens is these mosquitoes, that are GMO mosquitoes, they mate with the mosquitoes in the wild population, but then once they mate, their larvae can't survive. So they're supposed to get rid of the population. And so in Florida, I'll read this really quickly, they released almost 1 billion genetically engineered mosquitoes in the Florida Keys. Now, it's crazy. I mean, Florida, actually, funny enough, the two states that they dumped these mosquitoes were Florida and Texas, right? What are the two most conservative states, the two most red states that come to mind in America? Florida and Texas. So is it ironic that these are the two states that they dumped all these GMO mosquitoes? So this article is from 2020. It says a plan to release over 750 million genetically modified mosquitoes into the Florida Keys in 2021 and 2022 received final approval from local authorities against the objection of many local residents and a coalition of environmental advocacy groups. The proposal had already won state and federal approval. So they did it. Right? They did it. They dumped the mosquitoes out there. Okay. So what's crazy, though, is that they also did this in Brazil. Okay, so I told you I'm going to tell you the company. So the company, let me find it for you really quickly here. I think it's Oxitec, if I remember correctly. So anyway, what happened? So this article is from February 2024. So the dengue fever surged by 400% in Brazil after the Bill Gates-backed GMO mosquitoes were released. So it says that dengue fever has spiked fourfold in Brazil in 2024 following the release of millions of gene-edited mosquitoes by the UN's World Mosquito Program. So it says in the first 5 weeks of 2024, over 364,000 cases of dengue infection have been reported according to the country's health ministry, which is 4 times greater than the previous cases in the same period of 2023. The dramatic spike in dengue cases has prompted Brazil to purchase millions of doses of the dengue vaccine. Well, there you go, right? Here's the problem, and here's your solution. So this kind of gets into the different case numbers and stuff. So basically, it says, so the UN's World Mosquito Program announced in 2023 a plan to release billions of gene-edited mosquitoes in Brazil over a 10-year period in a bid to eradicate dengue fever in the country. So it's, quote, Brazilian health officials in 5 cities have been releasing clouds of lab-grown, sorry, I got a troll, it needs to be deleted real quick, has releases clouds of lab-grown mosquitoes infected with Wolbachia bacteria, which prevents the virus transmission to humans. So they're all excited about this, okay? And they're excited about this 10-year program. It says, now, a year after the mosquito initiative began, dengue cases have risen sharply rather than fallen. So notably, the World Mosquito Program received a $50 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So it says that here's the kicker, folks. It says the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is also bankrolling research into the dengue fever vaccine. Okay, imagine that. I mean, it's like, draw your own conclusions, folks. So here we go. Okay, so we have these GMO mosquitoes that were supposed to fix this. They got released into the public in Brazil. They saw a massive spike in the illness, And now the same people that funded the GMO mosquitoes and probably bought their way into approval from the agencies that would protect people from this and release these mosquitoes in the population are now funding the cure, the jab that will protect you from whatever just happened. So you add all this together and it just, again, draw your own conclusions. But I've got something really strange for you now. Okay, so Bill Gates, there's an official Bill Gates channel on YouTube. And this is about a couple of years ago. I'll pull this out for you, but there's this video that was uploaded to in like this Gates Notes thing, okay, on YouTube, on the Bill Gates YouTube channel. And it's called It's Mosquito Week. Now, it's a video, I think, to make people scared of mosquitoes. But if you look at the symbolism of this, it's like, it's dark and it's evil. So I'm going to play this video for you really quickly here. I think it's about a minute. And it's dark. I mean, it's not like scary, but just watch it because you got to see this. So again, this is an official Gates video put out about the threat of mosquitoes. Just watch this. I don't know. Like, I find that to be incredibly creepy and evil. Like, why? Okay, I know they're trying to create this scare around it, but it's almost like it's the Grim Reaper. Like, it's almost like that they're saying that the Grim Reaper is going to come in the form of mosquitoes and kill everybody. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments. But I do have something positive for you, though. Okay, so here's the thing is that we've got all this scare about mosquitoes and all this stuff, but I've got a fun little video for you. It's about a minute long of a homemade mosquito repellent that I haven't tried it yet, which I'll probably make one up actually after this video because it looks really good. I'm going to play a short video for you because this is awesome. So Florida woman finds cure to repel mosquitoes. So it says, listen to this simple formula which may come in extra useful as Bill Gates continues to fund more GMO mosquitoes in areas now imposing mosquito curfews. So I'll play this for, I think there's one bad word in this, I think the B word. So anyway, check this out.
To the woman who randomly commented on someone else's video about mosquito bites that they use vanilla extract for mosquito repellent. Bitch, I hope you get everything you want. I hope you get everything you want in life because let me tell you, I have bought every single commercial product you could for mosquito repellency because I get eaten alive because I have delicious blood apparently. And yeah, nothing works. Nothing works. And I'm in South Florida and it's really, really bad, especially around this time of year. Let me tell you, I mixed some water with some vanilla extract and then I was like, you know what would smell also really good with this? A pinch of cinnamon. Mixed it all together, sprayed it everywhere. Let me tell you, not only do I smell like a delicious snack, a delicious baked good out here in the summer heat, girl, it works. It works. I love you. To the woman who randomly...
So basically the formula, it seems like just vanilla extract and water is supposedly like a very, very powerful repellent for mosquitoes. Now she put cinnamon in there because she wants to smell like a baked good. But again, vanilla extract and water is great. So I'll have to try that because most of the, we don't buy DEET or off or that kind of stuff. And we still buy like, really healthy repellent stuff, which, essential oils, but like, vanilla extract, we're preppers. And so we've got gallons of vanilla extract stored away. So maybe I can use that for mosquitoes, which is great. But so speaking of prepping though, I want to get into something as we round out tonight's show. So this is a post that the World Economic Forum just put out called 4 Global Risks to Look Out For in the Post-Pandemic Era. Now, we know they oftentimes telegraph what they're doing. They tell us ahead of time. So there's a few things I want to read in here because they're talking about this analysis of the election year and, the complex global mental health crisis, etc. But as they come down here, let's see, here it goes. It says, an era of shock events. Now they say that, make no mistake, the U.S.-driven post-Cold War era ended a while ago, and the election won't change this. It says, enduring global leadership, democratic ideals, globalization, our liberal values have been notably challenged, and superpowers are overstretched. But they're saying that here's 3 shock events to consider that may impact global stability. Okay, sorry, we got one more person. These people in the live chat, these trolls. Gotta get rid of them. Okay, thank you guys. So, so they're saying, okay, there could be a new global extremist group emerges. They're saying, with the world distracted with multiple major wars and leadership in decline, this could be an opportunistic time for a new extremist group to make its mark and may not face as many consequences. Perhaps it will even leverage AI tools to kick off a new phase of terrorism. I mean, it's almost like they're planning this stuff. Okay, 2, a cyber pandemic that's intentional. So it says the massive global IT outage in July was not terrorism, but simply faulty software update from a cybersecurity firm. Yet it cost Fortune 500 companies $5.4 billion in damages and shut down flights, banks, hospitals, retailers, and other services worldwide. Imagine if a bad actor did this on purpose at an even grander scale. Okay, which I think, okay, what bad actor? Maybe them, right? And then here you go, climate change. Climate change claims its first island nation in the post-pandemic era. So again, they're talking about climate change as a threat, which is like, okay, sure. But anyway, like a cyber pandemic, they're warning about a new global extremist group they're warning about. I mean, this stuff is like, watch out. Again, this is why, prepping, prep. I talked about, having silver, food supply is also really important. It's worth mentioning now that, speaking of prepping, if you're looking for a good company to work with in terms of buying storable food, I highly, highly recommend Heaven's Harvest. These guys are great, strong Christian patriots out of Georgia, and I know them quite well, the husband and wife company. The super high quality storable foods, because honestly, folks, like I really think that I'm not being a fearmonger when I'm saying that I believe there's going to be a lot of chaos in the next 12 to 18 months or so and beyond. So it's important that we're prepared. Now, if you're just starting off, I recommend like Costco, dried rice and beans in 5-gallon buckets with auction packets and stuff. But it's also really good to have these food buckets. There's a variety of nutrition. They have organic, etc. And if you're looking at different companies, a lot of these other big companies that sell these food buckets, they're competing on price per calories. They're shoving all kinds of this crappy stuff in there, like pudding and Kool-Aid type stuff, to get the calories up for a cheap price. So I highly recommend Heaven's Harvest because it's just good quality food, which is like, honestly, folks, if we're in a survival scenario, you don't want to have cheap food. You want to have food that's going to nourish you. It's going to be good for you. So it's Heaven's Harvest. And if you use promo code Seth, you get a 15% discount, which actually ends up being a lot on these sites because it's easy to spend quite a bit of money on there because, my recommendation is you want to have at least 3 to 6 months worth of food. One other sponsor I do want to mention as we're rounding out is Balance of Nature. And it's funny because, Balance of Nature, the whole thing is they freeze dry fruits and vegetables. They put it into little capsules so you can eat it. So if you can't eat, say you're busy and you still want to get your fruits and veggies, you take one of these freeze-dried capsules. Obviously, it's not going to be as good as like fresh food and vegetables, but if you're on the go, it's still good. But to me, this is a prepping item, right? And I think they should market it as a prepper item, because I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, well, these little capsules full of freeze-dried vegetables and fruits with all the nutrients, like in a grid down scenario, if you've got a couple of those to pop every day and you're getting your some of your nutrients that you'd be getting from eating fresh kale and you can't get that stuff, it's a great prep item. So whether you want to take it daily just to get the extra nutrients, or you want to stockpile it and just save it because it's a great preparedness item, Balance of Nature, I highly recommend them as well. And we've got a promo code Seth, which will save, or balanceofnature.com/man-in-America, or the phone number 1-800-246-8751. So 1-800-246-8751. So again, that is it for the show today. Actually, you know what? I lied. I have one more thing for you, right? I have this beautiful, beautiful, positive video to show you. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to play it for you because it's only about a minute long. But if you're someone that has struggled with your faith, questioning whatever it is, check this out because this is mind-blowing. Okay, let me go and just zoom in a little bit and play this for you. It's 36 seconds long, okay? 36 seconds long.
You know, I was out hunting today, come up on this old lake way back in the woods, and I saw an eagle all the way across it. See the lake. And I said, Lord, I sure would like to get close to that eagle, because sometimes I feel like you don't always hear me, but if you hear me today, let me get close. I had a bald eagle land on my shoulder, out here hunting. I don't think you can get no closer than that right there at all. You know, I was out hunting today.
I'll play it one more time.
Come up on this old lake way back in the woods, and I saw an eagle all the way across it. See the lake. And I said, Lord, I sure would like to get close to that eagle, because sometimes I feel like you don't always hear me, but if you hear me today, let me get close. I had a bald eagle land on my shoulder, out here hunting. I don't think you can get no closer than that right there at all. You know,
I love that. This guy, he sees an eagle flying across the lake, says a quick prayer, says, I really need this, Lord, just let me see this eagle close, let it come close to me, and it comes and lands on his shoulder. So what an incredible message. And honestly, I'm not sure how you're feeling right now, but I really do have a lot of hope. I do. And not because I think things are going to play out a certain way politically. It's a different hope. It's a hope that comes from a feeling that humanity is waking up. Because ultimately, that's what's going to fix things here on earth, is enough people waking up and changing and just becoming good and virtuous again, which I'm seeing that happen. So I have a lot of hope. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And again, so I've got a great interview coming up tomorrow on cancer, all about cancer and like forbidden treatments on it. And again, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday live news with me here like this. So if you want to mark that in your calendar, say, okay, Seth is doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He's covering the news. So I'm going to work on covering the big topics and what's going on, but also as usual, to expect, I'm going deep in them, looking at, here's my research, helping frame what's happening. So, and again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the comments. The comments left after my recent video on the RFK announcement, it got a little bit kind of heartfelt towards the end there. And the comments you guys all left were beautiful. I think I read every single comment and shared them with my wife. And it was just beautiful. So thank you for being part of what we're doing here with Man in America. I love all of you. I appreciate the opportunity. I feel so honored that I can be here talking and everyone comes and they listen and thousands of people, they listen and you share my videos. And I feel so lucky and so blessed to have this opportunity. And so, yeah, thank you all for being here. If you want to help me out, please like the video. Please make sure you're following the channel, especially on Rumble, and please share. If this is a video that's good for you, share it. I'd love that. And just come back next time, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday is our news days, and Tuesdays and Thursdays we're doing interviews. So, all right, folks, that's it for tonight. Thank you. Take care, and God bless.